All right, good morning, students, and welcome back from spring break. I hope you had a good one. Let's get started today with comparing exponential functions, day 2. So this is lesson 3.1.2, day 2. There's only one category for today. It's just category F, so all of these are pretty similar. So let's get started. So for our first set of examples, we want to rewrite each radical expression by extracting perfect squares. So what is a perfect square? Well, let's think to ourselves, I'm just going to write it off to the side here. What is 1 squared? That's 1. What is 2 squared? That's 4. What about 3 squared? That's 9. What is 4 squared? That's 16. What is 5 squared? That's 25. What about 6 squared? That's 36. And you could keep this pattern going with 7 squared, 8 squared, 9 squared, 10 squared, so on and so forth. So the perfect squares are these numbers that I'm highlighting right here. These are perfect squares because they are perfectly something else squared. So that's why they are called perfect squares. So 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, and numbers like those would be perfect squares. So how are we extracting perfect squares in, for example, number 1? It's a square root of 32. So we need to think about what is the biggest perfect square that can fit into 32. And by fit into, I mean 32 divided by this number, the perfect square. I'm just going to write perfect square like that. Will give you a whole number. Okay, so this is what we want. The number that's inside our radical divided by the biggest perfect square that we can think of should give us a whole number. Okay, so let's see. Do you think 32 can be divided by 36? No, because 36 is bigger than 32. What about by 25? Let's pretend I don't know the answer to this already. So I'm going to try 32 divided by 25. And on my calculator, that gives me 1.28. That's not a whole number. So 25 does not fit. It only fits if when you divide it, it gives you a whole number. So not 25. What about 16? 32 divided by 16. Wow, it's not letting me write. Okay, 32 divided by 16, and that should give me 2, a whole number. Okay, so now we know that 16 fits into 32. So we have extracted the number 16 from the number 32. So I'm going to rewrite square root of 32 as square root of 16 times square root of 2. And why am I doing that? Because 16 times 2 gives us 32. So instead of square root of 32, I have square root of 16 times square root of 2 because 16 times 2 is 32. So I'm going to write the perfect square first, and then the 2, that just comes after. And the reason we do this, the reason we extract the perfect square is because now we want to do the square root of 16. But remember, 16 is a perfect square. So the square root of 16 is simply 4. So square root of 16 is just 4. So I replace square root of 16 with 4. And then the square root of 2 just stays there. So our final answer, I'll just write here. Our final answer is 4 square root of 2. You don't have to write the multiplication symbol anymore. You just write 4 square root of 2. So this is our final answer. So all of this stuff that I wrote over here in these brackets, that stuff is, you can do that in your head. You don't have to show all the work every single time. However, just because I am showing you examples and I want you to see what's going on in my brain, I am showing that work, okay? So we're going to try that same process on number 2. So remember, you want 50 divided by some perfect square, and then you want it to equal a whole number. Once again, you don't have to write this down when you're doing your work later on. I'm just showing you what is going on in my brain. I want 50 divided by some perfect square to be a whole number. So I'm going to try that out. So let's try 50 divided by, let's try divided by 36. Let's say I don't know what perfect square fits in. So I'm just going to try stuff out. Does 36 fit into 50? So 50 divided by 36 gives me 1.38. Repeating, that is not a whole number, so no. Okay, what about 25? 50 divided by 25. And then if I divide that out, it gives me 2. And oh look, 2 is a whole number. So then I know that 50 is equal to 25 times 2. So I'm going to rewrite the radical. Instead of square root of 50, I want square root of square root of 25. Remember, the perfect square goes first, times square root of 2. And that is because 25 times 2 gives me 50. So I just rewrote square root of 50 as square root of 25 times square root of 2. And remember, the square root of 25 is a perfect square, so we know the square root of 25 is simply 5. And then you don't have to write the multiplication symbol. You can just write 5 square root of 2. 5 times square root of 2. But you don't have to write that it's being multiplied. Because when you write stuff right next to each other, that's multiplication. Just like 3x is 3 times x. 5 square root of 2 is 5 times square root of 2. And so this is our final answer. And so once again, when you are doing these types of problems later on, you do not have to show all of this stuff. You can just write this, like the stuff I'm highlighting, that's all you have to show if you don't want to write everything that's in the brackets. Remember, I am just showing you that because I want to give you a peek inside my brain. Okay, so if you have any questions about this, remember to call me over. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video.